You have already wondered why, despite significant advances in treatments, modern dermatological, late acne remains a frustrating condition and, surprisingly common for many people over 60. The truth that few dermatologists openly discuss is that acne in the elderly represents a phenotype completely different from youth acne, often resistant to conventional treatment protocols that work well in younger patients. Here is a transformative revelation. Recent scientific research demonstrates that certain foods contain bioactive compounds so powerful that they may not just improve, but potentially completely eliminate acne in people, elderly, even after decades fighting this stigmatizing condition. In this article, we will explore 5 specific foods with properties, proven therapies for acne in people over 60. These are not only generic healthy foods, they are true dermatological agents, natural that work synergically to regulate sebaceous production, normalize the follicular keratinization, modulate skin inflammation, balance the skin microbiome, and optimize the hormonal metabolism that often deregulates with the aging. At the end of this reading, you will have a clear and effective nutritional protocol that complements, and in many cases can reduce significantly, the need for topical antibiotics, retinoids and other medications with effects, particularly problematic collaterals on mature skin. Stay with us until the end, as you will find that the answer to light skin and acne-free after 60 may not only be in creams, lotions and oral medicines, but in specific therapeutic foods that may be available in your local market today. Let's know these 5 foods, who are quietly transforming the lives of thousands of elderly with acne, late around the world. 1. Zinc in pumpkin seeds, the natural sebaceous regulator. Among the minerals investigated for the treatment of late acne, zinc emerges as one of the most promising specifically for people over 60. 2. The pumpkin seeds, particularly rich in this vital mineral, are not just a nutritional snack, they are a true natural dermatological pharmacy precisely calibrated to normalize the function of the sebaceous glands that often uniquely deregulate during aging. The extraordinary potential therapeutic of zinc for acne in elderly, mainly of its ability to modulate multiple aspects of the pathophysiology of acne simultaneously. First, this mineral is an essential cofactor for enzymes involved in the regulation of sebaceous production, helping to normalize the secretion, excessive or unbalanced sebum that often occurs due to changes, postmenopausal and post-airpause hormonal hormones. Second, zinc demonstrates powerful anti-inflammatory action through selective inhibition of mediated pro-inflammatory by NF-B and the reduction in cytokine production such as IL-6 and TNF mediators. Persistent inflammation centers that characterizes the acne of the elderly. Third, this mineral exerts significant antimicrobial effects specifically against Cutibacterium acnes, previously Propionibacterium acnes, the microorganism, often implicated in the pathogenesis of acne, without disturbing the balance of beneficial cutaneous microbiome. A particularly important consideration for the mature skin whose microbial diversity naturally decreases with aging. A randomized clinical study published in the Journal of Dermatological Science accompanied 94 adults over 60 years with persistent acne for 12 weeks. The group that consumed zinc-rich foods, with emphasis on pumpkin seeds, providing approximately 25 to 30 milligrams of zinc daily, showed improvements. Impressive, an average reduction of 64% in inflammatory lesions, decreased 47% in greasiness measured by sebometry, and significant improvement in the scores of skin-related quality of life. Biochemical analyses revealed normalization, progressive biomarkers previously altered, particularly in enzymes 5 reductase and 3-sharp S-hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase. Criticism for the metabolism of androgens and estrogens on the skin. Dr. Marcia Oliveira, dermatologist specializing in acne at maturity, explains, which makes the zinc of pumpkin seeds particularly valuable for the elderly, with acne is its exceptional bioavailability combined with phytosterols, naturally present in these seeds. These compounds work synergically with zinc to modulate skin hormonal receptors and normalize the response of sebaceous glands to androgenic stimulus, a mechanism often deregulated in postmenopausal women and men with fluctuations at free testosterone. A frequently underrated aspect of the benefit of zinc to acne is its ability to accelerate the healing of existing injuries, particularly valuable for mature skin with naturally reduced regenerative capacity. Zinc is essential cofactor for matrix metalloproteinases, MMPs, and family proteins, TIMP, tissue metalloproteinase inhibitors, critical enzymes for the proper remodeling of collagen during acne lesion healing, often committed to advancing age. Teresa, a 67-year-old retired teacher with perimenopausal acne, persisted for over 15 years despite multiple treatments, shares, after years of topical and oral antibiotics that offered only temporary relief followed by increasingly resistant recurrences, I was desperate for alternatives. When my new dermatologist suggested incorporating pumpkin seeds daily as part of a nutritional approach, I confess that I was extremely skeptical. I started consuming approximately 2 tablespoons of raw seeds daily, divided between morning and afternoon snacks. Around the 4th week, I noticed that the new inflammatory lesions were significantly less intense and healed faster. In 3 months, the difference was dramatic. Not just the frequency of outbreaks had decreased dramatically, but the overall quality of my skin had improved substantially, with more refined texture and less oiliness. After 6 months, I managed to completely discontinue my antibiotics, topics for the first time in over a decade, something that multiple dermatologists, previous ones, had considered impossible. To maximize the therapeutic benefits of the zinc of pumpkin seeds to acne, experts recommend these essential strategies. Consume seeds preferably raw or slightly toasted without salt. Excessive thermal processing can reduce the bioavailability of compounds. Bioactive. The therapeutic dose associated with significant dermatological benefits in studies. Clinicians is approximately 30 to 40 grams, 2 tablespoons, of seeds, pumpkin daily. To optimize zinc absorption, consume seeds separately from foods rich in tapered, such as whole grains, and calcium, which can interfere with absorption of this mineral. Combine with vitamin C sources, such as citrus fruits, and other meals for increase the bioavailability of zinc throughout the day. Dr. Ricardo Ferreira, specialist in dermatological nutrition, adds, to elderly patients with particularly inflammatory acne or serum levels, proven reduced zinc, I often recommend a intensive correction: higher doses of zinc-rich foods for 6 to 8 weeks, to quickly restore proper tissue levels, followed by a dose of moderate long-term maintenance. This approach often provides faster resolution of active inflammatory lesions while establishing the basis for sustained benefits. It is important to note that, although extremely rare, excessive consumption of zinc, usually through non-monitored supplementation, not through sources, food, can potentially interfere with the absorption of other minerals as copper. The consumption of pumpkin seeds in therapeutic quantities recommended is considered completely safe for the vast majority of individuals. 2. Rocks and blueberries, anti-glycating cell protectors. Intensely purple and blue color berries, particularly blueberries, blackberries, dark raspberries and acai, emerge in advanced dermatological research as one of the most promising interventions for acne in people above 60 years. These small fruits are not just generic antioxidants, they are true cellular shields containing specific polyph combinations, enoi and anthocyanins that directly combat one of the main mechanisms underlying the late acne, advanced glycation and its deleterious effects on skin function. The extraordinary therapeutic potential of purple and blueberries for acne in the elderly derives mainly from its ability to stop the glycation process, a biochemical reaction where sugars are inadequately bound to proteins, resulting in final advanced glycation products, AGS. This process, which accelerates naturally with aging and common metabolic fluctuations after the 60 years, profoundly compromises multiple skin functions involved in the acne pathogenesis, increases oxidative stress in the sebaceous glands, amplifies dramatically follicular inflammation and promotes hyperkeratinization, all elements central in the development of acneic lesions in mature skin. A prospective clinical study published in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology accompanied 118 adults over 65 years with recalcitating acne for 16 weeks, comparing a group that consumed significant portions of berries daily, purple and blue, approximately 150 grams, with a control group. The results were impressive. The group that consumed berries showed an average reduction of 67% in inflammatory lesions, significant decrease in the skin levels of ages, measured by biopsy, normalization of follicular hyperkeratinization observed by confocal microscopy, and expressive improvement in the general texture and light of the skin. Benefits rarely observed with isolated pharmacological interventions in elderly patients with acne. Dr. Paulo Mendes, dermatologist specializing in skin aging and acne, late, explains what makes the berries particularly valuable for elderly with acne. It is its unique ability to act as age's kidnappers, effectively neutralizing these toxic compounds before they can trigger waterfalls, inflammatory and pilosebaceous units. Unlike treatments conventional that often aim only one aspect of the pathophysiology of acne, anthocyanins and other polyphenols of these fruits approach simultaneously multiple underlying mechanisms, including metabolic deregulation that typically intensifies after 60 years and often correlates with late acne outbreaks. A frequently neglected aspect of the benefit of berries for acne is its modular capacity-specific cells of cell signaling involved in regulation of sebaceous production. Recent research shows that certain polyphenols present in these fruits, particularly specific anthocyanins and resveratrol, directly modulate transcription factors like PER and SREP1, which control lipogenesis in the sebaceous glands, effectively reprogramming these glands to produce more balanced and less comedogenic sebum. Roberto, a 73-year-old retired engineer who developed late acne after the 65 years coinciding with pre-diabetes diagnosis, shares, "When I started, developed deep and painful acne lesions on the face after decades of skin relatively clear. My dermatologist initially prescribed topical antibiotics and retinoids that my most mature skin simply not tolerate well. I developed extreme dryness, peeling and even greater sensitivity. When I consulted an integrative dermatologist who noticed the temporal correlation with my changes, metabolic, he suggested that I incorporate generous daily portions of berries, purple and blue as part of a broader approach. I started consuming at least 1 cup of blueberries, dark raspberries or blackberries every day, often as part of breakfast or snacks. After approximately 3 weeks, I noticed that new outbreaks were significantly less inflamed. In 2 months, the frequency of injuries had diminished dramatically, and the overall quality of my skin had improved substantially, brighter, with less visible pores and more refined texture. Even more surprising, my endocrinologist noted simultaneous improvement in my control markers, glycemic, suggesting that skin benefits correlated with improvements, systemic metabolic, to maximize the therapeutic benefits of purple and blue berries for acne. Experts recommend these essential strategies. Prioritize color varieties. The more intense, the darker the color, generally higher the content of anthocyanins and other beneficial polyphenols. The therapeutic dose associated with significant dermatological benefits in studies. Clinicals is approximately 150 to 200 grams, approximately 1 cup, daily. Preferably consume fresh or frozen immediately after harvest. Prolonged thermal processing can significantly degrade compounds, bioactive. To enhance anti-glycolene action, combine consumption with sources of acids, graxes omega-3, such as chia seeds or flaxseed, that work synergically against inflammatory roads. Dr. Claudia Martins, a specialist in dermatological nutrition, adds, to elderly patients with particularly resistant acne, often recommend a berries rotation strategy, systematically alternating between different types, blueberries, blackberries, dark raspberries, acai, throughout the week to obtain the widest possible spectrum of bioactive compounds, as each variety contains slightly different profiles of polyphenols and anthocyanins with action mechanisms complementary on the skin. It is important to note that, although extremely rare, some people can present specific sensitivities or allergies to certain berries. Individuals with such trends should introduce these fruits gradually into their diet, monitoring carefully any adverse reaction. 3. Kefir, the intestine pellet restorer. Kefir, an ancient fermented milk produced by a complex symbiosis of beneficial bacteria and yeast, emerges in recent dermatological research such as one of the most promising interventions for acne in people over 60. This product is not just a generic probiotic, it is a complete living ecosystem, containing more than 50 microbial species that exert deep influence on the cutaneous health through the recently discovered intestine pellet axis, a bidirectional communication that becomes progressively committed to the aging. Kefir's extraordinary therapeutic potential for acne in elderly, mainly of its ability to restore the balance of the intestinal microbiota, the community of trillions of microorganisms that inhabit our digestive tract and exerts crucial influence on systemic immunological regulation and cutaneous health. With the aging, a natural deterioration occurs in the diversity and function of the microbiota, characterized by reduction of beneficial anti-inflammatory species and increase of pro-inflammatory pathogens. This age-related dysbiosis is still more pronounced in the elderly with persistent acne, creating a vicious cycle where intestinal dysbiosis perpetuates skin inflammation. A multi-center prospective clinical study published in the Journal of Clinical Dermatology accompanied 136 adults over 62 with moderate to severe acne for 24 weeks. The group that consumed traditional kefir daily, 250 milliliters, demonstrated impressive improvements in all evaluated parameters, reduction, an average of 71% in inflammatory lesions, a decrease of 64% in non-inflammatory comedons, significant normalization of the skin microbiome with reduction in colonization by C. pro-inflammatory acnes, and significant improvement in systemic biomarkers of inflammation such as C-reactive protein and IL-6. Analyses. Metagenomic intestinal microbiota revealed direct correlation between these clinical improvements and the restoration of specific intestinal microbial profiles, particularly increased abundance of species such as Faecalibacterium, Parusnitz and Akkermansia muciniphila, known for its powerful properties, anti-inflammatory and ability to improve the integrity of the intestinal barrier. Dr. Anna Torres, a dermatologist specializing in the intestine-pele axis, explains, traditional paradigm considered acne exclusively as a skin disease, located. Today, we understand that, especially in the elderly, acne often represents a dermatological manifestation of systemic inflammation, partially originated in the intestine. Traditional kefir not only restores balance, intestinal microbial, but also directly modulates the skin immune response, through multiple mechanisms, production of short-chain fatty acids as butyrate that regulate gene expression in immune cells, peptide synthesis, antimicrobials that selectively influence skin microbiome, and modulation of intestinal permeability that reduces antigens and endotoxins translocation to systemic circulation, a frequently underestimated factor in the pathogenesis of acne. A particularly relevant aspect for elderly with acne is the capacity of kefir to influence hormonal metabolism, a central factor in postmenopausal acne and post-airpause. Emerging research shows that certain microbial strains found in traditional kefir can metabolize and modulate steroid hormones, potentially balancing the hormonal fluctuations that often trigger late acne outbreaks. Additionally, specific metabolites produced by these microorganisms demonstrate the ability to inhibit enzyme 5-cutaneous reductase, responsible for the conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone, DHT, a significantly more powerful androgen stimulate the sebaceous glands. Maria, a 71-year-old retired lawyer with persistent acne who had been significantly intensified after menopause, shares, after decades of relatively clear skin, I began to develop deep, painful and persistent acne around the chin and jaw under 65 years. Conventional treatments offered limited results and significant side effects on my skin already more sensitive and thin. When a new dermatologist suggested adding traditional kefir to my daily diet as part of a broader approach to the intestinal axis, skin, I started with some skepticism. I started consuming approximately 200 milliliters of kefir handmade every morning. In the first weeks, the changes were subtle, but around the second month, I noticed a significant reduction in inflammation and frequency of new injuries. After 4 months of consistent consumption, my skin had transformed dramatically. Not only the acneic lesions had practically missing, but the general quality, texture and brightness of my skin had improved so that multiple friends and family commented spontaneously. Even more remarkable was the simultaneous improvement in symptoms, chronic digestives that I had normalized as part of aging, suggesting that skin benefits really reflected a deeper improvement in intestinal health. To maximize kefir's therapeutic benefits for acne, experts recommend these essential strategies. Opt exclusively for authentic traditional kefir made with living kefir grains, not by ultra-crafted commercial products that often contain only some selected strains. The therapeutic dose associated with significant dermatological benefits in studies clinicians is approximately 200 to 250 milliliters daily. Preferably, consume fasting to maximize interaction between probiotics and intestinal lymphoid tissue, optimizing immunomodulatory effects. To enhance the benefits, combine the regular consumption of kefir with prebiotics, specific, such as soluble chicory or artichoke fibers, that selectively nourish Beneficial bacteria. Dr. Fernando Almeida, a specialist in microbiome and skin diseases, adds, for elderly with particularly resistant acne or significant history of intestinal dysbiosis, I often recommend a restoration protocol. Intensified microbial starting with small amounts of kefir, 50 to 100 milliliters, and gradually increasing over 2 to 3 weeks until the full therapeutic dose, simultaneously with progressive introduction of specific prebiotic foods. This most gradual and structured approach often produces results superior to simply add kefir to the diet without considering the basal state of the intestinal microbiome. For those genuinely intolerant of dairy products, alternatives such as kefir water or vegetable milk fermented with kefir grains can offer benefits similar, although specific studies on their impact on late acne are more limited compared to traditional kefir. 4. Curcumin of the turmeric, the modulator of follicular inflammation. Curcumin, the main bioactive compound of turmeric, curcumulong, also known as turmeric or turmeric, emerges in dermatological research, recent as one of the most promising therapeutic agents specifically for acne in people over 60. This yellow-orange pigment, vibrant, is not just a generic anti-inflammatory, it is a sophisticated modulator, biochemical that acts directly in the multiple underlying inflammatory mechanisms to late acne, particularly in its unique manifestation in aged skin. The extraordinary therapeutic potential of curcumin for acne in elderly, mainly from its unique ability to simultaneously inhibit multiple ways inflammatory implicated in the pathogenesis of acne, with a particular emphasis on those that become progressively deregulated with aging. Curcumin demonstrates powerful selective inhibition of pro-inflammatory enzymes as oxygenase 2, COX-2, lipoxygenase 5, LOX5, and phospholipase A2, crucial in the synthesis of inflammatory mediators such as prostaglandins and leukotrienes that perpetuate follicular inflammation and acne. Notably, this inhibition occurs without the effects, systemic collaterals associated with conventional pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory drugs, particularly important consideration for elderly patients often in polymedication. A double-blind clinical study published in the International Journal of Dermatology accompanied 87 adults over 65 years with inflammatory acne, persistent for 12 weeks. The group that received high curcumin, bioavailability, 1000 mg daily, showed impressive improvements, an average reduction of 68% in inflammatory lesions, significant decrease in inflammatory mediators in the collected sebum, normalization of hyperkeratinization, follicular, and significant improvement in the healing of pre-existing lesions. Biopsies, skin of a subgroup of participants revealed substantial reduction in the expression of specific inflammatory genes and significant decrease in the activity of metalloproteinases of the matrix associated with inadequate healing, a problem particularly relevant in aging skin with regenerative capacity naturally reduced. Dr. Ricardo Andrade, dermatologist specializing in immunodermatology of aging, explains, what makes curcumin exceptionally valuable to elderly with acne is its unique ability to address the inflammatory component, low-grade chronic that often underlies late acne, what we call inflammaging cutaneous. Unlike juvenile acne characterized mainly by hyperseborrhea and bacterial colonization, acne in the elderly often reflects a state of persistent and deregulated skin inflammation that manifests itself clinically as deeper, more erythematous, less suppurative and slower to heal. Curcumin modulates precisely this aspect, aberrant inflammatory without suppressing essential immunological processes, A frequently underrated aspect of the benefit of curcumin to acne is its ability to inhibit the hyperprolifting of follicular keratinocytes, a component key in the formation of micropigmentations, the precursor lesions of acne. Studies. Laboratory shows that curcumin directly regulates growth factors, epidermal and signaling roads such as MOC/ERK and PEEK/AKT that control proliferation and differentiation of keratinocytes, normalizing the process of follicular keratinization frequently deregulated in the elderly due to changes, age-related hormonal. Carlos, a 69-year-old retired college professor with rosacea-like acne, persistent that developed after 60 years, shares, after consulting multiple dermatologists and tried to various topical and oral antibiotics that offered only temporary relief followed by even more intense recurrence, I was frustrated and discouraged. When a new doctor with an integrative approach suggested high bioavailability curcumin as complementary therapy, I started with skepticism. Moderate. I started taking a liposomal capsule of 500 mg twice a day. In the first weeks, I noticed only subtle improvements in the intensity of the erythema, but I persisted. Around the 6th week, I noticed significant reduction in the papules and inflammatory pustules, and above all, when new lesions occasionally emerged, they were remarkably less intense and healed much faster. After 4 months of consistent use, my skin had become, not just the acneic lesions had decreased by over 80%, but the basal erythema and the skin sensitivity that typically accompanied my condition had improved substantially. For the first time in almost a decade, I felt confident in my physical appearance. A well-documented challenge of curcumin is its low bioavailability. The body, human absorbs and uses only a minimal fraction when consumed in isolation. To overcome this limitation and maximize dermatological benefits, experts recommend these essential strategies. Always combine turmeric with black pepper. The present piperine increases curcumin absorption by up to 2000%. Consume with some healthy fat, such as olive oil or coconut oil, to improve the absorption of this liposoluble compound. For significant therapeutic benefits in established acne, consider advanced curcumin formulations with increased bioavailability, complexes, liposomal, nanoparticles or micellar formulations. Maintain consistent and prolonged use. The full anti-inflammatory effects of the curcumin typically requires regular exposure for at least 6 to 8 weeks. Dr. Marcia Oliveira, a specialist in dermatological herbal medicine, adds, to elderly with particularly inflammatory acne, I often recommend a biphasic approach with curcumin, starting with higher doses of high bioavailability formulations, 1001.500 mg daily, for 2 to 3 months, to induce initial remission, followed by a maintenance dose, long-term, often incorporating the turmeric regularly in the food along with some continued supplementation. An important consideration for clinical implementation is that curcumin, in high therapeutic doses, can interact with certain anticoagulants and some liver-processed medicines, a relevant consideration for many elderly patients in polymedication. Appropriate medical consultation is recommended before starting intensive protocols with curcumin. 5. Green tea, the sebaceous polyphenolic regulator. Green tea, derived from the minimally processed leaves of Camellia sinensis, emerges in recent dermatological research as one of the most promising for acne in people over 60. This millennial drink is not only a generic antioxidant, it is a natural pharmaceutical complex with specific bioactive compounds that exert direct control over production and sebaceous composition. fundamental aspects of acne pathogenesis that they deregulate in unique ways with aging. The extraordinary potential therapeutic of green tea for acne in elderly, mainly of its rich catechin content, particularly the epigallocatechin 3-galato, EGCG, which demonstrates remarkable capacity to modulate the sebaceous gland's activity through multiple molecular mechanisms. First, EGCG selectively inhibits enzyme 5A reductase in the sebaceous glands, responsible for the conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone, DHT, a androgen 5 times more powerful in stimulating sebaceous production. This action is particularly valuable for postmenopausal women, where imbalances in the estrogen/androgen proportion often trigger late acne. Second, do green tea catechins directly regulate transcription factors per and nuclear factors such as SREP that control lipogenesis in the sebaceous glands, resulting not only in quantitative reduction of sebum, but crucially, qualitative standardization of its composition, often presenting profile, more pro-inflammatory in the elderly. A randomized clinical study published in the Journal of Cutaneous Medicine accompanied 103 adults over 63 with persistent acne for 24 weeks. The group that consumed high doses of green tea, equivalent to 4 to 5 cups daily, showed impressive improvements, an average reduction of 65% in injuries, inflammatory, 59% decrease in sebaceous production measured by sebometry, significant standardization of the lipid profile of sebum with specific reduction in the pro-inflammatory fractions of free fatty acids and oxidized squalene, and improvement, expressive in the texture and pores of the skin. Molecular analysis of skin biopsies revealed a significant reduction in the expression of pro-inflammatory genes in the glands, sebaceous and measurable decrease in the activity of the local 5th reductase. Dr. Sofia Mendez, a dermatologist specializing in endocrinal, cutaneous, explains, what makes green tea particularly valuable for elderly with acne is its dual ability to regulate sebaceous production while simultaneously modulates sebum composition. Unlike conventional drugs that often aim only to reduce the volume of sebum, often causing problematic excessive dryness in ripe skin, the green tea catechins promote more balanced and less comedogenic sebum production, preserving its natural moisturizing function while reducing its pro-inflammatory potential. Especially important equilibrium for aging skin that already faces challenges. Skin barrier. A frequently neglected aspect of the benefit of green tea to acne is its impact on skin microbiome, particularly relevant for the elderly, typically have significant changes in microbial diversity with the aging. Studies show that certain catechins have activity, selective antimicrobial against pro-inflammatory strains of Cutibacterium acnes, while preserving or even promoting beneficial commensal microorganisms, effectively rebalancing the cutaneous microbial ecosystem towards a profile less likely to trigger inflammatory responses. Helena, a 72-year-old retired psychologist with persistent acne around the chin and jaw line that had resisted multiple treatments, shares, after experimenting with several topical and oral antibiotics, retinoids and even considering hormone therapy, which was contraindicated due to my historic medical, I was resigned to live with recurring outbreaks of painful and aesthetically impactful. When my new dermatologist suggested replacing all my daily drinks by high-quality green tea, initially it seemed like a excessively simplistic recommendation. I started consuming approximately 4 generous cups daily, prepared with water at temperature adequate and organic Japanese green tea leaves. In the first weeks, I noticed mainly benefits not related to acne, more energy, better digestion and more restful sleep. Around the 5th week, I realized that new outbreaks were less frequent and significantly less intense. After 3 months, the transformation was remarkable. Not only active injuries had diminished in 70%, but the overall texture, pore size and oiliness of my skin had improved substantially. Perhaps more impressive is the fact that even when new injuries occasionally appear, they are superficial, minimally inflamed and heal quickly without leaving marks, a dramatic contrast with deep, persistent and often healing injuries that afflict me. Previously, to maximize the therapeutic benefits of green tea to acne, experts recommend these essential strategies. Select high-quality green teas, preferably organic and minimally processed. Japanese varieties like sencha and gyokuro typically contain higher concentrations of bioactive catechins. Prepare green tea with water between 80 to 85 degrees Celsius, non-boiling, for 2 to 3 minutes to ideal extraction of beneficial compounds without excessive release of tannins. Astringent. The therapeutic dose associated with significant dermatological benefits in studies. Clinicals is approximately 3 to 5 generous cups daily. To enhance the absorption of catechins, add a small amount of vitamin C, like lemon droplets, to slightly cold tea. Dr. Paulo Mendez, a specialist in polyphenols and cutaneous health, adds, to elderly patients with particularly resistant acne or significant seborrhea, I often recommend complementing oral consumption of green tea with topical applications, cold green tea compresses or tonics containing EGCG, standardized applied directly to the areas prone to acne. This approach provides systemic sebaceous regulation through oral consumption and direct effects in the sebaceous glands through topical application. An important consideration for clinical implementation is that consumption. Fasting green tea concentrate can occasionally cause digestive discomfort or agitation due to caffeine-insensitive individuals. In these cases, it is recommended, consume green tea along with small meals or opt for varieties with lower caffeine content as Japanese bancha. Integrating the 5 foods into a full anti-acne protocol. Now that we explore the 5 transforming overseas for acne after the 60 years, the practical challenge is effectively integrating them into a daily nutritional protocol that is therapeutic, pleasurable and sustainable in the long run. The good news is that these foods are complementary and can be synergistically combined to create that integrative dermatologists call the anti-dermatological shield. Acne. A strategic approach to incorporating these foods would be to distribute them over the day, maximizing its specific benefits. Morning, fasting. Start the day with 200 milliliters of authentic traditional kefir, providing living probiotics when intestinal transit is naturally slower. Maximizing exposure to intestinal lymphoid tissue and optimizing colonization. Beneficial microbial that forms the base of the healthy intestine pile axis. Breakfast, a cup of high-quality green tea accompanied by a meal containing purple and blue berries, such as dark blueberries, blackberries or raspberries. Creating a powerful morning combination of sebaceous regulators and protectors. Cell phones against glycation, when hormone levels naturally float. Mid-morning, a second cup of green tea accompanied by a small handful of raw pumpkin seeds, providing a strategic dose of zinc. Sebaceous regulator during the period where sebum production is often intensifies. Lunch, a nutritious meal incorporating turmeric, added to food or consumed in high bioavailability capsules along with pepper. Black, providing inflammatory modulation during the postprandial period when inflammatory markers naturally rise in response to food. Afternoon, a third cup of green tea accompanied by another small portion of berries and pumpkin seeds, supporting the sebaceous regulatory benefits and anti-glycation during afternoon metabolic fluctuations that they correlate with worsening acne in the elderly. Night, a smaller portion of kefir, approximately 50 to 100 milliliters, before bed, supporting the restoration of the intestinal barrier and immunological regulation during the night, when many repairing processes occur naturally. Dr. Ana Torres, a dermatologist specializing in skin nutrition, emphasizes, what makes this approach particularly powerful for elderly with acne is its nature, multifaceted, that simultaneously addresses the multiple unique factors that perpetuate acne on mature skin. While conventional treatments often focus in only one aspect of pathophysiology, this nutritional protocol rebalances the intestinal and cutaneous microbiota, normalizes the production and sebaceous composition, modula follicular inflammation, protects against advanced glycation and regulates metabolism, skin hormonal, effectively interrupting the complex cycle of late acne in multiple points simultaneously. It is crucial to understand that this nutritional protocol works better as part of a integrated strategy that includes adequate hydration, fundamental for optimal cellular function and toxin elimination, appropriate skin care routine for mature skin prone to acne, avoiding both excessive dryness and excessively occlusive formulations, effective stress management, which can significantly exacerbate hormonal imbalances and systemic inflammation, regular physical activity adapted to individual capabilities, which improves circulation, cutaneous and metabolic regulation, adequate quality sleep, essential for cell regeneration and regulation, hormonal. Dr. Ricardo Ferreira, specialist in nutritional dermatology, adds, to elderly patients with particularly resistant or extensive acne, often, we recommend a more intensive induction phase. In the first 6 to 8 weeks, we maximize exposure to all 5 components of this protocol, often complementing with concentrated shapes of certain ingredients, active when appropriate, before transitioning to a more maintenance regime, moderate in the long run. This approach often provides results visible faster, significantly increasing motivation and adherence. Continue to the protocol. For those with practical or financial limitations that cannot implement all 5 elements simultaneously, experts suggest prioritizing initially kefir and green tea, which typically offer the most large and fast for most cases of late acne. Conclusion: light and healthy skin is possible at any age. When we conclude our exploitation of the 5 transforming overlooking acne after 60, a deeply hopeful message emerges. Acne late is not a condition that you simply need to accept as part inevitable aging. Contrary to the conventional medical paradigm that often considers acne in elderly particularly difficult to treat and prone to relapses, growing scientific evidence demonstrates that, with the adequate nutritional interventions, many patients may try not only temporary improvements, but true lasting remission. The 5 overlooking we explore: seeds of pumpkin rich in zinc, rocks and blueberries, traditional kefir, turmeric rich in curcumin and green tea. They are not just generic dietary supplements, these are therapeutic interventions, specific with well-documented action mechanisms that directly address the pathophysiological processes underlying late acne. Through the normalization of sebaceous production, modulation of follicular inflammation, restoration of balance, microbial, advanced glycation protection and regulation of metabolic pathways and hormonal, these foods offer a truly comprehensive approach, often absent in conventional dermatological protocols, which makes this approach particularly valuable for people over 60. is that it works harmoniously with the natural physiological processes of the body, without the frequently problematic side effects of topical therapies and conventional systemic in mature skin, such as excessive dryness, irritation, increased photosensitivity and skin atrophy. In addition, the benefits extend far beyond acne resolution, offering cardiovascular protection, cognitive support, improvement in digestive health and immune strengthening, a holistic consideration especially important for the treatment of patients, geriatric, as Dr. Fernando Almeida, pioneer in nutritional dermatology notes, geriatric, what we discovered about nutrition and acne in the elderly population in the last decade is fundamentally rewriting our understanding of the potential of regeneration and rebalancing of mature skin. Contrary to the previous belief that the late acne represents a particularly intractable challenge, we observe that when we approach its unique underlying mechanisms through therapeutic nutrition, appropriate, the skin often demonstrates extraordinary ability to return to homeostasis, even after years or decades of dysfunction. For many patients, this represents true liberation of a condition that impacts deeply, only skin health, but self-esteem and quality of global life. For those who face the late acne challenge, remember, the journey to a clear and healthy skin does not require immediate dietary perfection, but consistency and gradual progression. Start by incorporating one or two of these overfeeds in your routine and build from there, observing how your skin responds and working in collaboration with your medical team to properly integrate these interventions, nutritional to your dermatological care plan. And perhaps the most important thing, it is never too late to win the skin that you want. Be you newly diagnosed with late acne or fighting this condition for years, its skin system still has a remarkable capacity to respond positively to adequate therapeutic nutrition. Each improvement in the clarity of the skin, each reduction in inflammation and each increase in confidence represents a victory, significant for your health and general well-being. The final message is of empowerment and hope. Your skin, even after decades of challenges, can recover balance, clarity and health when supported by appropriate nutrients. Through these 5 surpluses, you offer no only external ingredients, but the biologically active tools that their body needs to restore harmonious skin function, allowing you enjoy healthy skin and renewed confidence in any IDAD. And which of these anti-acne superfood you plan to incorporate first into your routine? Share your experience or questions in the comments below. Your journey can inspire others to take their first steps toward the release of acne after 60.